Hello and welcome to On the Corner, the official podcast of pitcherlist.com. I'm your host, Eric Samulski, joined, as always, by Andre the Giant himself, Nick Pollack.
What is happening? Yeah, I guess I'm going to take the Andre the Giant one. That's fine. This is because YouTube recognized Eric and me, and they put me as Andre the Giant, I guess. I don't know. It's pretty amazing. But hi, everyone. We are live on Twitter and on YouTube. And if you don't know, yes, we have an On the Corner podcast YouTube channel now. This is the second time we're doing this one. It's pretty great. You can go and view us talk about these guys in a more personal manner moving forward. So go check it out. It's On the Corner podcast on YouTube. But we've got a fresh top 100 hot off the presses. I posted this like 10 minutes ago.
So hot.
So hot.
So hot.
Yeah.
I also didn't even know the person that I do love some Yoo-hoo that YouTube said I was in that.
Oh, I don't know either.
That screenshot was. I was like,
yeah. You're more notable than him. Okay. Okay,
thanks.
Eric.
Appreciate that. But I am wearing my Andre the Giant shirt for you. I do love it. I have it. Here we go.
That's wonderful. I'm wearing my First Pitch Arizona because that's for you. You're going to be there.
I am. I've been chatting with the guys over at Baseball HQ, and I'm gonna go. We're gonna record hopefully there.
Of course.
And
we'll have some prizes. I think
time.
I'm gonna try and I was thinking about this. If I could guess, if I could throw like a line for a guy and see if you guys can guess in the audience, I'll give away some stuff for that one. But also I did want to mention this is the last week of the list being the list. And what that means is next week, it turns into future schedules being merged with a list because let's be honest, when you have a month left in the season, matchups mean more than we want it to. When I do the list, it's all about just kind of nebulous skills and just in general what I expect for a large sample. But then when you get down to it in August, it's like, okay, the first week of September is my playoffs and I need to know who I should be actually rostering. And if I'm saying I like this guy more than someone else, I better be saying that with the schedule in mind.
Yes,
at that point.
Sure.
So it's going to change.
And we will get to that too, because there's a lot of end of season wheeling and dealing and decision making that teams make that has impacted the schedule or some of these players going forward. And that's the kind of stuff that you can have a more direct knowledge of when you know exactly who they're facing and when and etc.
Right, exactly. So looking forward to that one. It's going to be another long day stream.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll have the podcast for you next week. But what are we going to talk about today, Eric?
Well, today we're going to talk about the list. We're going to talk about the top 100 pitchers.
Oh my God.
And today's list is called the Stylin', Profilin', Limousine Riding, Jet Flying, Kiss Stealing, Wheeling and Dealing, Son of a Gun, Ric Flair, woo! Honorary top 100. And
Love
it because the cover boy is good old Brian Woo.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So we got.
Are you a Woo girl?
In here. I'm a Woo girl. I don't love hamstring and forearm tightness.
No, so not fun.
It's been kind of like a woo girl thing this year, but
yeah, well, it's been the woo of the roller coaster,
yes.
Right? But
yes,
no, he's now I think 3 games of going a sizable workload above 85 pitches comfortably, and that's pretty exciting when you have secondaries that you can throw for strikes underneath that allow the fastballs to do well above. He has a tough test tonight against the Dodgers. Obviously, listening to this on Tuesday, you'll know how he did. But I just couldn't help myself. I wanted to make him the cover photo today because finally he gets to just do what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, got to do it. Looking forward to it. I am starting him in some places this week, so cross my fingers. We're keeping a simple theme for this week. I just want to talk about, I want you to name each tier after baseball stadiums or parks.
Stadiums or parks? Okay.
So, I wanted to expand it beyond, like, if you have any stadiums that are near and dear to your heart that maybe were college or growing up, or you can just keep it pure MLB. Even, there's some great minor league parks out there.
Sure.
But I just want to know kind of like the places you've been that you enjoyed or didn't enjoy. And I think it gives the people a sense of you as a baseball viewer.
Sure. Absolutely. I'm terrified. Can't wait.
Yeah, we're gonna get right in. Hopefully, there are more options than New York City takeout.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but we're gonna jump right in with a very abbreviated tier number 1. It starts with number 1 Zach Wheeler, number 2 Chris Sale, number 3 Blake Snell, And yeah, done. That is it. That is the end
That
of
is
tier
it.
1. What's this tier called? Why is it called that?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Um Here's the thing, guys. When it comes to baseball parks, I actually haven't been to as many as I would have liked to been to so far. I am expanding finally, but there's a long time when I had been to 4 baseball parks, and they were Citi Field and Shea Stadium, and Yankee Stadium, and New Yankee Stadium. So
Not a
I
lot of
of
parks.
the parks I have been to, I think my favorite one is Oracle Park.
Mm,
And it's also a little claustrophobic, like a touch, which is nice because it's only 3 people on this tier. But it is, you go there and you're like, yep, this is gonna be a good environment. It's nice weather. It has the baseball feel, has the brick, but it's interesting. It doesn't feel like it's just a boring stadium. You can walk around, lots of cool stuff, and it has Crazy Crab. So yeah, I'm gonna call this one Oracle Park.
nice. Fenway for me is the claustrophobic park that comes to
I
mind.
know, but I just
Um,
we'll
no,
get
but
to that.
listen. Also, you're a Yankee fan. I know you can't put Fenway
No,
as the top one. I
no,
understand.
that's not the reason
Okay.
why. I'll absolutely express this. I actually am not going to tell you that very good things about Yankee Stadium. So
Yeah, I might agree with you on that one. Yeah, small tier, but these are guys that we know and can trust, which is wild that we're saying that about Chris Sale and Blake Snell, but here we are in almost September, and that's where we're doing. And we'll explain a little bit more about why this is such a short tier, but that kind of gets into the guys who are now in tier number 2. So we'll just
Mhm.
dive into tier number 2,
Sure.
which starts with number 4, Jack Flaherty, number 5, Michael King, number 6, Bailey Ober, number 7, Logan Gilbert, number 8, Cole Reagans, number 9, Aaron Nola, number 10, Dylan Cease, number 11, Garrett Cole, number 12, Luis Castillo, number 13, Tarek Skubal, number 14, Paul Skeens, number 15, George Kirby, number 16, Corbin Burns, number 17, Shota Imanaga. What's this tier called, and why is it called that?
So this is kind of funny to me. You guys are gonna laugh. I'm going to be referencing these kinds of parks a bit, and this is the best parade grounds field
Okay.
because you knew it like there were better fields out there. You knew that there was stuff that was just like, okay, really like a real proper field. The thing is, to us growing up in Brooklyn, that was the nicest field. It
It's a good
was,
field.
it was, there's 2 I'm talking about. There's one that's the turf, and honestly, I didn't really hate the turf, but there was the actual main field. And when they had a good upkeep of that one, it was a good field. That was solid. And for us, oh man, having to deal with Prospect Park for ages, and
I mean,
where we talked about Red Hook with
yeah,
the
I was gonna say you
syringes in the field
you
and
had
the
Prospect Park. I had Red Hook.
yeah, well, with the what we call the scoreboard, which was the factory with its black
Oh,
mold on it, or whatever.
you called that the scoreboard. We called that the crack dome. And that was because of all the syringes we found all over the place
Right.
and all the drug
So
paraphernalia.
yeah, dealing
Yeah,
with that, it's a clear ace to
yeah,
us, even though we know that there is better out there.
sure. We got to talk about the 2 names on here that are the biggest droppers, and they're for reasons beyond their control. Tarek Skubal and Paul Skeens fell the most spots of anybody in this tier. Can you just explain a little bit why that's the case?
Yeah, so I might be jumping the gun slightly with Paul Skeens. But with Tarek Skubal, they said, yeah, we're going to monitor his workload. We're going to be maybe skipping his start, or we're going to make sure that he's not pitching as much as he normally would be, which look, like you got to take that into consideration. It is 6 weeks left in the
Mhm.
season, which means that if you miss one start, that is 1/6 of production. That is a significant chunk. What is it, 18%, I believe? You don't want to do that.
No.
So I needed to lower them. It's just the nature of it. And I don't want to, but I got to do it. Same with Paul Skeens. It seems like the Pirates would do that. It makes all the sense that they would. This isn't to say that none of these other guys are going to be limited, but if you look at them, it's Wheeler, Sale, Snell, Flaherty, King, Ober, Gilbert, Reagans, Nola, Cease, Cole, Castillo ahead. Those all are like veteran guys who are going to
Yeah.
go every 5 days. And that's the reason why I did this. Maybe not Michael King. I thought about that one slightly, but I said, Michael King, who's really high right now, he's at 5. But I think anyone who has Michael King rostered He's gonna be like, yeah, Michael King is like just set and forget, and
Right.
we're
He's been
done
incredible.
there.
Yeah.
And the tangent here quickly, I'm actually amazed that inside of this tier 2, that there are as few guys that are just complete set and forget. I expect 7 innings of dominance constantly, right? A lot of these have all these random little questions, and it's like King and Ober are just that good right now. So I put him there.
Yeah. And we'll have, I mean, that's a really good thing for people listening to remember. You and I will have a lot of conversations in the off season about that and what it means for drafting pitchers going forward, because it really is an interesting note to look at these guys in the top and think of how few of them were like, yeah, this is my ace when you drafted at the beginning of the year.
Right.
The note that you mentioned about with the Pirates, that was a Ken Rosenthal report from this morning, where he said the Pirates are considering limiting Skeens's workload. Rosenthal brought up some good points that he said the Pirates could be thinking about in regards to that. And obviously it's, if Paul Skeens finishes first or second in the NL Rookie of the Year, he gets to free agency a year earlier. And the Pirates are a super small market team and probably can't sign him to any kind of lucrative extension. So Rosenthal was, explaining in his article that if they limit his workload, if he pitches 4 innings at a time, if they skip a start here and there, and he falls out of the top 2 in the Rookie of the Year, the Pirates get to keep him for another year. And that would have immense value for them. They could go the way that Garrett Crochet is going, which we'll talk about later. The Skubal thing, the team has already said it, like AJ Hinch already said that. To me, it's like I worry less about that in Roto, because it seems like from the quotes, when he pitches, they're going to let him go. Like they said, we don't want him worrying about it when he's on the mound.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in a head-to-head league, if they skip a start or push him back, like you may have a week in your playoffs where he doesn't get a start. And I'd rather get 4 innings of him than none. So in a head-to-head league, it really hurts. And those are the things, like when we get to the schedule article or the schedule version of the list going forward, you also need to adapt that to your league type.
That
if you're
is
in a head-to-head league, you have to approach it differently.
It is really like, it is so hard to find a philosophy that really works for that schedule one too. I hate it every single year. Because it's just impossible. It's like, well, this guy has 7, so this guy has 6. Then cool, I'm going to say that this guy has X percentage more production than the other one. It's like, no, I can't really always say that. And then this is always going to change, and who they actually face is also, I don't really know if that's going to stick. It always changes every week. Oh gosh, not looking.
And we have said for a while now that, like, the rest of season, even now, like looking rest of season is still not as valuable as looking like 2 or 3 weeks at a time. There are very few guys where you're like, they're just in my lineup. And there are other guys you just may have to move on from, look 2 or 3 weeks in advance and then move on. But we're still within the tiers of guys you can trust, including the guys in tier number 3, which start with number 18, Max Fried. Number 19, Framber Valdez. Number 20, Logan Webb. And number 21, Pablo Lopez. What's this tier called? Why is it called that?
Man, I don't. Oh gosh. Okay. Coors Field is great.
It's fun. It is fun.
Coors Field is great. Okay. It's not an ace team, but you know what? That's an ace park.
It is.
And
it's an ace neighborhood around the park. If you are a fan of like breweries and food trucks and stuff like that, great area around there.
And it's not an ace air quality, or not air quality. No. Well, air quality is probably actually really great.
I think it's
just
the
elevation.
Yes. Drink your water. Drink your water. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so important when you go to Colorado. But yeah, it's a really nice park. I was there with the Fangraphs crew in 2019. That was a really fun time. And so yeah, it's beautiful. So there you go. Coors Field, tier 3.
We got to talk about the big bump up for Framber Valdez.
He's been so good.
Has looked really good. That curveball has looked great.
That's it.
Leaning on it a lot more. We feel like we're getting the Framber Valdez that we kind of thought was like, you and I weren't as high on him as some coming into the year. We did that Potapalooza thing with Justin Mason and Paul Sporer, but like top 20 was totally realistic.
Yeah, I had Valdez around there, and it really it's funny because it's just about the curveball. Like I had someone on Twitter, Vaughn, who I said like, well, yeah, he's increased his curveball usage and thus he's done great. And he says, well, it actually is a really fun conversation that you and I have a lot, which is it's not just about usage. I think a lot of pitchers want to throw it more,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't always have the feel of the thing, and they can't do it because it's just not as good. But then all of a sudden, Valdez figured out this curveball, I think, and got into a good rhythm with it about a month ago. And we've really seen that curveball usage go up because he's just really had it. And if you follow my roundups, you'll hear me say a lot like, yeah, he just doesn't have his curveball or change. And he tries to figure it out. And those are those really bad games. Seeing Valdez have his curve, it just changes everything for him. So I hope that sticks. Seems really nice. And he has something ridiculous, like a 35% strikeout rate in his last 7 games. But he had a 19% in his 15 prior. So it really, it's how you define a season. It's really the peaks and the valleys, not really like the normal stable production.
Yeah, and this is something, I mean, I totally buy the idea that he didn't have feel and was tinkering. I mean, we talked about like he went to that start in Mexico and there was a slider and you were like, ooh, this slider. And this slider actually looks like the cutter he was throwing 2 years ago, which was good. And then the slider disappeared and then the curve came in. And it's like, those are the things over a course of season when you tell the narrative, you're looking at a pitcher who is trying to find that pitch. And for whatever reason, is taking different like shapes and turns to get there, and seems like he has gotten there now. And that's great. And we hope that number 18, Max Fried, gets there. He's slowly inching back up the list, but he has not looked quite the same since coming off the IL.
Yeah, Max Fried is someone that I just think, you're going to be fine. I know it's weird to say that. Track record is one of the things that we got to take note of. And we know that Max Fried takes a moment after returning from the IL. That's what always happens. I watched a lot of his last game. 2 of his runs came in a very strange inning where he had to play at home and he just shoveled in. The catcher didn't catch it. It's one of those cases where like, Max Fried's fine. He's going to be completely fine. And I believe that he will, but I can't move him up any higher until he actually does that. And if he actually showcases a degradation in skill, then I will lower him. But right now we're just at an impasse and waiting.
And maybe not relevant for Sale and Fried, but we have to also take into account the team context for the Braves, and the offense behind these pitchers has changed drastically with Acuna and Albies, and now Austin Riley out for the rest of the season. You've got Ozuna and Michael Harris is back, and you've got Matt Olson, but this is no longer like, it's still a good team context, obviously, but it's no longer, hey, I've got a starting pitcher on the Dodgers, or, I've got a starting pitcher on the Orioles and I have like a really good shot at wins. You now have a pretty good shot at wins still, but like some of those fringier guys, it is something to keep in mind if they get a hard schedule in a particular week.
Yeah, definitely.
Tier number 4 starts with number 22, Sonny Gray, number 23, Ronel Blanco, number 24, Justin Steele, number 25, Robbie Ray, number 26, Brian Woo, number 27, Luis Gil, and number 28, Freddie Peralta. What's this tier called? Why is it called that?
This is the Field of Dreams, because let's be honest, it can be really exciting, or it can also just be kind of boring. Like I think about the Field of Dreams scenario where like, wow, look at this, we can just go outside and watch some baseball. But it's like, cool. Think about a baseball game, everyone. I go to the games. It can be so fun, especially when playoff baseball is the greatest time ever. A lot of times I go to baseball games, and as a baseball fan, it's all about the people that you're with. Yeah. Right. The actual baseball being played in front of you sometimes is great. Sometimes you really can't tell what's going on because, unless you're right behind home plate, it's just kind of like, all right, like I can't see how well the guy is pitching, or if you really swung at something bad or whatever it is, Yeah. And I just think of the Field of Dreams thing. It's like all these old guys playing baseball. And it's like, is this actually that fun? I don't know. It feels like it should. That's my takeaway of the movie Field of Dreams. So yeah, that's tier 4.
Especially depends on your seat. Now that everybody's throwing everything hard, you see a pitch and you look up and you're like, oh, 93-mile-an-hour slider. And you're like, was it a slider or a cutter or a sinker or a 4-seat? You're like, I don't know what that was from all the way out here, but it looked good. Speaking of looking good, talk about Brian Wu.
Oh man. So Brian Wu, I mean, just as we talked about before, Wu is getting his opportunities to actually throw enough pitches to get into any sort of rhythm. And it's what we've been waiting for. What does he do? He's very efficient because his 4-seamer and sinker are tough to hit and generate outs, and he throws strikes with them, which is great. And then he has secondaries that fall underneath. It's kind of the Zach Wheeler method, and he's doing a really good job of it. I just have wanted him to get consistency at 85 plus pitches all year. I've been just waiting for him to get that, and now he's gotten it for I think 3 straight starts. It's been great along that ride, and yeah, I just hope that the Dodgers don't completely mess them up tonight.
Yeah, we saw this a little bit in the second half of last year, where Wu was making pitch mix changes to, like, he limited some of his strikeout upside, but had a deeper arsenal that was helping to, like, reduce some of the issues with splits against lefties and things like that. And you kind of see that play out where, like, over the last month, he's only struck out 27 batters in 30 and a third innings. That's, obviously less than a strikeout per 9. Based on what he looked like when he debuted, that was a significant decrease. He was like all in for strikeouts when he first came up, but it's a 1.48 ERA. It's a 0.79 whip. Like, he is, evolving as a pitcher where he's not just pure strikeout. He's trying to kind of like limit the damage. And that kind of stuff has looked really good for him. And then also there's another pitcher. That's in the next tier. So is there anybody else you want to talk about in this tier, or can I cue something up for my next one?
So in this one, I would say it's kind of hard to figure out what to do with Robbie Ray and Luis Seal. I think Luis Seal will be better moving forward. It could be just one of those things where, hey, you're going through fatigue because you haven't had this workload before, and you just aren't going to be that good with all 3 of your pitches. I kind of want to believe that Heel has it in him to have his changeup back and hit that extra last jolt forward. While Robbie Ray, man, he had this horrible start, and before that, it was actually pretty good, but he was kind of the same guy in both. Where in the recent one against Atlanta, Robbie Ray got to 2 strikes on 7 of the 8 batters who reached on base. And that's kind of wild. The only one he didn't was the grand slam, was the hung pitch to, I believe it was Kelnick. Michael Harris, the hung curveball.
Right.
And what? Like, you were so close to just being completely fine and good that start. And I don't want to forget that, because a lot of times you see these clunkers and you just go, oh my gosh, Hunter Brown, you threw everything down the middle of the plate, and there you go. This was 2 strike counts on everyone, and he just couldn't execute that pitch that time. So I'm not quite out on Robbie Ray, because that's just kind of the Robbie Ray experience a little bit. And he could very well just swing the other direction. So those are the 2 I do want to make sure are present here. And also, Freddie Peralta threw softer on his fastball. I don't like that. And I hope he's okay.
He's Professor Chaos. He just always makes us wonder. There's somebody I want to talk about in tier number 5, but we'll get to that after this break.
I'll let you have it, Eric.
I thought you were gonna. I teed it up, and I thought you were gonna say
nope.
Oh, nope, Brian, I got you. Talk about him after the break. Well, I appreciate that.
Nope, I got it. This is what we do every single time, guys. Every time it's like, oh, who's gonna get it?
It's a battle. It's important.
I gave it to Eric.
Stats. Yeah, thank you.
Take it away.
Tier number 5 starts with number 29, Yusei Kikuchi. Number 30, Jeffrey Springs. Number 31, Joe Musgrove. Number 32, Carlos Rodon. Number 33, Zach Eflin. Number 34, Tanner Bybee. Number 35, Seth Lugo. And number 36, Nathan Eovaldi. What's this tier called, and why is it called that?
So this is your Fenway Park, because, you're supposed to like it. And like, you go there and, I understand the magic of it. If you sit behind home plate, oh my gosh, it's so cool. If you sit above the green monster, oh my gosh. But the thing is, there are times where you have these guys on your team and you feel like you're sitting away from looking at home plate. Okay. Your body is oriented toward left field, and you have to turn your neck to look at home. And then you try and go and get concessions, and you're like, is this my middle school? Is this my public school over here? Through the hallways? It isn't great. And they keep trying to make it work. So a lot of these guys in tier 5, honestly, like, I can see how Kikuchi in my head is like, no, you're a tier 4 guy. Joe Musgrove, you used to be like top 25. Jeffrey Springs, I think you're coming back in your thing, so on and so forth. But, you might find yourself turning a little bit more than you want to on these guys.
That's a good one. That's a good usage of Fenway Park. I appreciate that.
Anytime.
Last week I wrote about Zach Eflin and the changes he was making with the Orioles. In terms of the Orioles changing his fastball usage, with the sinker and the cutter and the 4-seamer, depending on if he's facing righties and lefties, and deepening his arsenal. Well, in 19 and a third innings with the Orioles, he has a 1.40 ERA. He's got 18 strikeouts to just 2 walks, and looks pretty darn good in a good team context, in a good pitcher's park. And if you're, taking good old like Fangraphs player rater, he's been a top 10 pitcher over the last month. And I'm not saying we're getting back to like, hey, this is the Zach Eflin that broke out last year, and we're like, is he a fantasy ace? But he's maybe a better, closer to a version of that than we thought he was going to be in the first whatever months of the year, where it looked like he had totally fallen on his face.
Absolutely. He's much more in rhythm. The cutter was really good in his last outing. The curveball actually wasn't really much of an asset for him. I like the situation. It's all good. He didn't really move. This was more of like, I got to get Musgrove up and Springs for obvious reasons. I have to push up Brian Wu as well. That's really what happened in this case. And I actually initially had Eflin around where Justin Steele is. And I thought, no, hold on. I'm projecting a little bit too much here, because yes, he is squeezing a lot out of this with the Orioles. At the same time, I think he's at the higher end at the moment. I don't think that's also now him the rest of the way.
Sure.
So I like Eflin. I think it's a much better case than it was before. If you remember, I had him as a Toby for a moment, like tier 7, tier 8 territory. And now he's comfortably in tier 5. So feel good about it.
Musgrove wound up with a pretty solid 2-start week. I mean, obviously he only threw like, I think 9 1/3 innings combined. So it wasn't, he wasn't going deep into games, but he survived, the start to Coors. He didn't get lit up anywhere. It wasn't anything drastic where you were like, oh my God, I have to add him, but he didn't fall on his face. And maybe that's good enough for the first week back on the IL. Or did you see something in Musgrove that gave you a little more confidence?
He's throwing 93, 94 now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. I'm looking at Savant, or at least with Savant while writing my roundup in the morning. It was associating more to his four-seamer than now. Like on our page, it's 92.6, and then sinker's 94.4. But they might have changed that a little bit, because we get this from Savant. I'll probably update again tomorrow, because that's a 2-tick increase on the sinker alone there. And there's something to be said about that. If Musgrove isn't sitting 92.5 anymore, it's like closer to 94. I remember being 93.8 this morning when I saw it. That's a huge deal, because that's a much better version of Musgrove. He was also spotting the pitch really well upstairs. He had his curveball working really well. He had just all of his stuff kind of working in tandem, much more so than I saw in the first start, much more comfortably. And this was also in Colorado, which isn't the most fun place to pitch. So I'm all of a sudden very encouraged. Like, okay, cool. This is something new from Musgrove. This is not the older version. And that version that we wanted to see was like a top 20 guy, like right there among those solid 6-inning guys with a 25% strikeout rate, good ratios, winning chance, like all that stuff. And I hadn't really seen it for a bit. This was a start that really got me encouraged into it. So I'm excited for this. It was over 73 pitches. We should probably be at 80, 85 next time out. But I think I want to really hammer into everybody listening. The list is very strange right now, with so many guys being like, I don't know.
Right.
And a lot of, I think a couple of weeks ago, I was really thinking, wow, all these guys are just pitching at their best ability. And now we're seeing a lot more like, wow, a lot of you guys are showing so much more wear and tear than usual.
Yeah.
So yes, I do feel that there is a definitive, I'd say maybe top 55 or so, something along those lines. And then there's a big gap after that. But even inside of that, this is the tier 5. It's really where we start to kind of transition to like, okay, these are the stalwarts that we know. Like if Springs, whose command is looking so good right now. I mean, really, that game he just had was just absurd how well he was spotting everything he had. Then you have your Eflin, you have your Baibu, who's been great for you. You have Eovaldi in here, and Rodon and Seth Lugo. And the next one's like the fun one, and we'll get to in a second. And it's like, I don't know how to balance those two exactly, so I just put them into 2 different tiers. But then after that, then it starts to get to like, I think I like them. I don't know if I do.
It is a lot of personal preference, and it's a lot of like how much risk you're willing to take and all that kind of stuff. The Springs thing is fun too. It's like, he's great. Are the Rays going to push him more than 5 innings in a start? Like who knows? And that's league context, right? If you're in a quality start league, like Jeffrey Springs may be tougher to roster because he's coming off Tommy John and the Rays aren't contending. And why are they going to push him.
The thing is, they
So-
should. This is the one argument I have against that is if you want the guy to be able to go 130, 140 next year, you gotta push him now.
Yeah.
And it's why like Jared Jones, everyone's like, well, okay, they're gonna limit hit to him. He's only pitched 91 innings this year. Like, if you want Jared Jones to be a full 150, 160, not have to do this again next year, you gotta push him at some point. He's been injured for a while. Like, let him finish out properly. And that makes all the sense to me. There's an idea of over coddling.
Yes.
And I feel like Springs, don't over coddle, right? Let him
Well,
go.
especially because he's not a young prospect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's a great point too. I didn't even think about that. Right. So I don't know. There are certain guys like that, and Garrett Crochet, fine. Like, okay, it's gonna be like 130, 140 or something at this rate of 4 innings a game.
Yeah.
Which that's another whole thing that I'm not going to ramble about, but it's just, that was stupid. 55 pitches. It's not about innings. It's about pitches. What are you doing? Okay. But it looks like they're probably going to do that. And I get that one because he's pitched consistently throughout the year. But if they haven't, if they've been interrupted, I don't really like, why push them? Because you got to be able to get the next step for next year. That's why.
Because you want him as a full guy for next year. You did mention Garrett Crochet, who starts off tier number 6. He is number 37. And number 38 is Spencer Schwellenbach. 39, Ryan Pepio. 40, Shane Baz. 41, Hunter Brown. 42, Taj Bradley. You said this was the fun tier of the chaotic tier. But what's this tier called and why is it called that?
This is Chase Field because, let's be honest, guys, that's the one that has a pool that people jump in.
Yeah.
And I went there, and that felt
fun.
like I was at a mega church almost, because it was, that stadium is remarkable. The quote unquote bleacher section, like the nosebleeds, are just endless. So many rows just connected as one section, and great seats. Unreal. I felt so, I don't know. There's something different about Chase Field than other stadiums in this way. It really felt more unified, I think, as we all focus off towards center.
I've never been. I've never been, but my version for this tier would be Tropicana Field.
Well, I was thinking that, but I hate Trop, so
yeah. Well, for me, it's only because I remember going to the Trop like in my late 20s. And it was like the first time I was at a stadium where they were just selling like hard liquor.
okay.
Like you just go and get like a drink at a bar, and they were ridiculously expensive. They were like doubles. And there's like a moment where you're like, oh man, this is like a party. And then you look around and it's like the game is garbage and the stadium is trash and everybody's drunk and it's just a mess. So like, it kind of makes me feel like this tier where you're like, oh, that's fun. And then you're just in a second, you're like, that is out of control.
Oh my gosh. And by the way, I put out a tweet about Ryan Nelson earlier in the week. And I think it's a fun segue because I talked about the Trop. And I was saying, look, Ryan Nelson had 20 inches of IVB on his 4-seamer. And if that was the average for the year, he essentially would be the number 1 in baseball with vert on your 4-seamer, which is absurd. That's crazy. Yeah. Ryan Pepio. Oh, it's not Ryan Pepio. Sorry, Ryan Nelson. And Eli Ben-Porat was like, yeah, that's the Trop. It does that. And he showed me this really good chart that wasn't just like the average 4-seamer in Tampa Bay, because then it's like, well, maybe my first thought was, well, yeah, but the Rays lean into it, so that maybe is more skewed. So I said, yeah, cool. So these are the bottom half of innings, essentially, is the away team, and showed that it was 17.5 inches was the average vert on 4-seamers, where generally the average otherwise was like 15.7 for every other stadium, and then there's cores at 12.5. So just to note, everyone, when now all I think about with the Trop is, yeah, Tropicana Field, Tampa Bay Rays, home field, that increases vertical movement by over an inch. It's like 1.5 inches or so, which is a huge deal.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why does it do that? You have any idea?
I don't know.
Okay. We'll have to dig into that. It's not recently helping Taj Bradley, who's been on the struggle bus a little bit. He's in here at 42. We talked about it a little bit last week. It has not looked great of late.
Yeah, Taj Bradley has to locate his 4-seamer better. I think he will. It's better than what he's doing is he's locating 2 hittable inside the zone as opposed to chaotic outside the zone. So I'm
Mhm.
hoping that there's some sort of adjustment he can make there. And I have some faith, but yeah, I had to drop him down a lot because he's just not looking like the almost ace.
Right.
And it's been this way for 3 starts. And it's like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
you gotta be
And
better.
he's get some tough starts this week, so something to consider. Fun one at the top of tier number 7. Number 43, Zebby Matthews. Number 44, Bryce Miller. Number 45, Tobias Myers. Number 46, Brian Bayo. Number 47, Zach Gallen. Number 48, Reynaldo Lopez. Number 49, Nick Pivetta. Number 50, Mr. Home Run himself, Cutter Crawford. What's this tier called and why is it called that?
This is the Brandeis field. So here's the thing. I'm coming from New York and I'm going, all right, like I've been on some pretty terrible fields all my life. And I go to Brandeis where it's actually like we have a baseball field.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking to myself, man, this is amazing. We've got this sturdy, great field and everything. But you realize this is tier 7 and not tier 5, which means you look at it and you go, these guys should be really sturdy. But then when I go to the other stadiums of like schools I didn't know existed and I should have, and that's just me being whatever, and they have the most gorgeous fields. And I'm thinking, why can't we have that? Why can't we have this where a single gets hit to right field and the outfielder comes in to take it as a true hop and then all of a sudden just goes to the right of him? Why can't we have a good field? And that's what tier 7 is to me, because I look at a lot of this and I think, yes, this should be Mr. Absolutely everything is fine and we're great and I just love this for the rest of the year. All of them could not come through in the last month, and they all have different reasons why. And the first one is the one that I like the most right now, which is Zebby Matthews. Do you like Zebby Matthews, Eric?
I do like Zebby Matthews. Yes, I appreciated the first start. This much? That's a really good question because it's only been a start.
Yeah,
and so
I know.
I would probably say not this much.
Oh my gosh, Eric.
Yeah.
We're done.
Like there are some guys in this tier and we can chat about them who I think like if push came to shove, I think I'm going with them or I'm starting them or, obviously these things are all matchup dependent, but I would side with them, including Brian Bayo, who we've been talking about forever, trying to, get things going, get it together, get the whole arsenal working, coming off a really nice start against the Orioles, where we talked about the fact that he was like, it looked like he was turning a corner because the slider had gotten really good in the middle of the season, but he lost the changeup, but then the changeup was slowly coming back. And it was like, can we get all the pieces together? And, I think we're starting to see the pieces coming together a little bit.
Oh yeah. No, Bayo is in a much better groove now. I like that. I do worry a little bit about if that is going to stick around because we really haven't seen it all come together for a long time.
Sure.
I am more encouraged though by Brian Bayo than I am a lot of the bigger names. And I think a lot of people are going to say like, well, I don't really know if he's good based on the entire season. I kind of want to throw that away and be like, yeah, as you mentioned, the 3 pieces, the sinker, the slider, and the changeup are there now. And it makes me feel encouraged moving forward. So I'm going to take a little bit of a risk here. I think putting him at 46, but Brian Bayo, I'm in for it.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to ask you also, what about Bryce Miller? Because over the last 30, and we talked about Brian Wu, over the last 30 days, Wu and Bryce Miller have thrown the exact same amount of innings. Brian Wu, 1.48 ERA. Bryce Miller, 2.05.
Yep.
Brian Wu, 0.79 whip. Bryce Miller, 0.75 whip.
Yep.
Brian Wu, 27 strikeouts. Bryce Miller, 30 strikeouts.
Totally get
so
it.
Surface level results.
Yeah.
Incredibly similar. What are you seeing under the hood that makes you lean towards Wu right now?
Under the hood, you gotta take off the cloak. But no, with Bryce Miller, it's less consistent. And what I mean by that is I've been searching for Miller to find the secondaries that he trusts to pair with a 4-seamer. He did a thing last time, which is the splitter. 7 whiffs on that pitch, all of a sudden becoming a very reliable offering. And whoa, amazing. I would love that every single game. Bryce Miller does that. 4-seamers are upstairs, and you have the splitter there. You have the other secondaries not doing much of anything, but the splitter, oh my gosh. Right. And y'all know how I feel about your number 2 pitch being a splitter. Very inconsistent. And this is Bryce Miller, the guy who we know to be inconsistent with secondaries. So I am not encouraged by that being the path. I want it to be the path. I would love for it to be it. I just need to see a little bit more before I push him up. And the fact that we saw a start or two of his curveball actually trying to be
Right.
that
That's what I was
thing,
gonna say.
and
Yeah.
then it went away,
Mhm.
and it's just kind of like, oh, I don't know how sustainable that run is. There's also the whole thing about Bryce Miller being so demonstrably worse on the road than he is at home, and he had a lot of those starts at home. He did do well in Pittsburgh where that splitter showed up. That obviously offset it. I'm generally not a home road splits guy, but Eno's really showed me the light of like how Seattle helps their starters a lot. It's just absurdly better strikeout rate for whatever reason. And to see such a stark difference of home road splits, we're talking like a 2 ERA versus like a 6 to 7 ERA for Bryce Miller. It's pretty consistent. So there's something to be said about that one, which makes me feel even more hesitant to believe that Bryce has now hit a plateau that he can hold on to.
I was going to bring up the curve thing where you're like,
Of course
it
you were.
looked like it was the answer and then it wasn't the answer. And so maybe
Right.
this isn't the answer either.
Yeah.
But we'll tell you some more answers in the top 100 after this break. We'll start with tier number 8. Number 51, Kevin Gausman. Number 52, Clayton Kershaw. Number 53, Christopher Sanchez. Number 54, Tyler Anderson. Number 55, Justin Verlander. Number 56, Gavin Williams. It is a shoulder shrug emoji tier, but what is this tier called and why is it called
that? This one's Yankee Stadium because it has like the name value.
Yeah.
But it's Kevin
maybe
Gausman, Clayton Kershaw, Justin Verlander. And look, guys, I think a lot of you know that, yes, I want to be happy in life, so I'm a Yankee fan. I hide it a lot.
Does that make you happy recently?
I mean, yeah, I like that every October I'm generally having something to do. And the thing is, though, I'm very much more of a baseball fan these days, with especially I root for the pitcher on the mound. I root for Red Sox pitchers as they go against the Yankees all the time. And I'm also someone that isn't blindly loyal just because I decided to choose a team when I was young, which means that I'm going to look at Yankee Stadium objectively and say, look, it is beautiful and regal from the outside. My gosh, is it cool to see these arches and this big like Coliseum Pantheon looking thing. And you go in, you've got the giant screen, this big hallway. It's great. You go in, Yankee Stadium itself has this little magical thing, but man, is it boring around it. Oh my gosh, it's a mall inside. Okay. There is no real character navigating the concession stands and everything else. It's just about that field being the field that it is. And it's not just as a baseball stadium. There's so much more feel. There's so much more flavor and character and spark to other stadiums that I've been to. And Yankee Stadium is just like, yeah, we're great because we've been great. Not because it is great.
Yeah. No notes. And that's honestly kind of how I feel. Like, I know that's why you picked it, but it is how I feel about a lot of these pitchers. I don't really know if there's anything really to dig into here. Verlander obviously is going to start on Tuesday, so we don't know what is going to happen yet. And yeah, Kershaw had a pretty solid start over the weekend for sure.
You said that Verlander was going to start on Tuesday. I saw Wednesday.
Did you see Wednesday? Okay,
yeah, but I could be wrong.
While you're talking about Kershaw,
he's not going to get this or that.
Yeah,
my
while you're talking
understanding
about Kershaw, look.
Yeah, I'm seeing still Wednesday roster resource. But yeah, we don't know what we're going to get from Verlander. Hopefully it's really good. That'd be great. Thank you so much. Would appreciate that, Verlander. With Clayton Kershaw, he's not Tatiaga. That is the ace that is always going to ace. If you don't know his nickname, it's a fun one, and his slider is good. He just got 2 strikeouts, and it's kind of, I don't know. We just got to accept it. Like, yeah, Kershaw shouldn't even be pitching right now. I don't even know how he is, because that shoulder injury should have taken him out for the entire year. I don't really have a ton of faith that he's just going to be this really good arm for you, earning a ton of wins and all this stuff moving forward in a ratio lock. I feel like we're going to run into some major blunders or clunkers as we move forward. So be careful with Kershaw. While Gausman doesn't get enough whiffs on his splitter, Christopher Sanchez is just kind of weird. There are days he's just like, okay, you can hit my changeup and sinker. Awesome, thanks. Tyler Anderson is really good, and I think 19 whiffs last time against the Jays, even though the ratios weren't good. That's because they swatted all the 4-seamers upstairs. And Gavin Williams, I still haven't determined how I feel about Gavin Williams after all this time. This is actually something I gotta say. Anyone listening, I mentioned it before in the roundup, but I think Gavin Williams had a start that really showcased how foul balls influence good or bad outings.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an extreme foul ball start, that is, you don't allow any foul balls or you allow a ton, I really feel like that is correlated with the extreme good or bad starts with pitchers. That is, you are preventing either the good or bad outcome off of the fastballs. That's what foul balls do. Either it's a good outcome of a whiff or a ball in play that you want for an out, or it's preventing a ball in play that would have been damaged. So, for example, I wanted Kyle Bradish to get foul balls. But I don't want Gavin Williams to, because that's the pitch that gets him his outs and his whiffs. So if you see a lot of foul balls on that, it's just preventing and forcing him to execute again. And that's my theory on foul balls. They've kept us up at night for like a decade. Both Alexes of Chamberlain and Fast and me. So Gavin Williams just suffered that. So I'm like, all right, I don't know what to make of you. We'll see. Hopefully it's good.
Fingers crossed. Hopefully. And you are correct. Justin Verlander, Wednesday start for Verlander. Tier 9 starts with number 57, Brandon Pfaadt. Number 58, Nick Lodolo. Number 59, Ryan Nelson. Number 60, Tanner Houck. And number 61, Brady Singer. What's this tier called? Why is it called that?
This is the next one. This is the next stadium. Hey guys, we're going to move. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be the best park ever. Maybe it is, but it could just be nothing. And it's just like, oh, all right, I guess so. It's just another cash grab. Yay. Cool.
Another, like, it could be amazing. We got to keep Ryan Nelson in this rotation right now. I mean,
unreal. It's nuts to me. He is, I think, the best Diamondbacks pitcher. And it's like, how can you remove this guy when you're trying to win a wild card spot? I know you have a high playoff expectation on Fangraphs right now, but who knows? You still got a month and change left. Like, you gotta keep Ryan Nelson in there. His four-seamer, again, is doing so well. He's been on the stretch, and it's kind of funny. The one game where he didn't do well was the only one where his four-seamer was in the bottom third of the zone and not in the bottom, in the top third. So, yeah, I don't believe that they are going to pull him out. I'm sorry. There was a quote. Lavulo? Oh my God. Lavolo.
Yeah.
Lavolo. Okay. I'm sorry. I haven't, for some reason, my brain is like, I don't remember you saying this before. He said that, yeah, we don't want to go 6-man, so everyone's like, well, that's gotta be Ryan Nelson then. It's like, I don't know. Jordan Montgomery ain't so good.
Right. Eduardo
Merrill Kelly was down a
great.
tick. Zach Gallen isn't looking great. Is someone actually still hurt? There's Eduardo Rodriguez coming back. I mean, is he all good too? There's so many questions. Brandon Pfaadt's fine. Brandon Pfaadt is going to stick in there. That's fine. He's fine.
Even though Nelson has been pitching better than him, but yes, Brandon Pfaadt's going to be fine. He's going to stick in there.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually featured in the command like he saw in October. We saw from him in October last year, and he's very much a rhythm guy. Highlighted the fact that he's a really good location plus guy. Makes me more of a fan of Pfaadt than I was before. If I'm a believer that his command is really good, then like, okay, I can understand how you get by with your sweeper and your fastball, but I still want that extra pitch for Pfaadt. Just one more. It's a really good slider, please.
Please figure it out. Please.
Yeah.
Well, let's just talk about Nelson's teammate, because he starts off tier number 10. It's number 62, Eduardo Rodriguez. Number 63, Cody Bradford. Number 64, Chris Bassett. Number 65, Nestor Cortez. 66, Gavin Stone. 67, Merrill Kelly. And 68, Martin Perez. What's the tier called? Why is it called that?
This is Dunedin, because it's a stadium. They needed it. All right, fine. You got to play games. Go to Dunedin. We'll make it happen. It's okay. It'll be fine. Yeah, I know. It'll be kind of weird with the whole ball flying out thing. It's okay.
Vlad Jr. will hit 41 home runs.
Yeah.
All that stuff. Yeah. We just kind of mentioned Eduardo Rodriguez. Cody Bradford, who was going to pitch out of the bullpen, and then John Gray got hurt and Max Scherzer got hurt and Bradford got back into the rotation, and shook off the rust a little bit. And the last couple starts have looked solid.
Yeah. No, I'm a fan of what Cody Bradford does. In some ways, I think of him like Bailey Ober from the left side, because he's an extension boy who is really good at locating his four-seamer, and then he has a changeup to play off of it that has an 18% swing strike rate, 58% strike rate. Like, those two pitches is just from the left side, and here's the thing, and that's better to be from the left side with the fastball changeup than it is from the right side.
Yes.
So Ober needing the slider is because, yeah, you face righties, buddy, and like righties, you need to have a slider. With Bradford as a lefty, you can get by with a changeup. So I kind of dig this guy. I think he needs one more offering to really take down lefties more effectively. But this fastball changeup approach does work. Even though he's at 90.3 on his four seamer, because he has such good extension. We're talking 91st percentile, over 7 feet on it, and he's precise with it, and with 17 inches of vert on that four seamer that Ober doesn't have. He's actually able to do well with that pitch. So he's an interesting one. I think Bradford also gets a really good schedule. The chat was mentioning today that the Rangers have a phenomenal end of season schedule, and Bradford's going to benefit from that.
He will. We also we got to talk about Martin Perez.
Yeah, he's been pretty good.
He's been pretty good, but is this just is this a Rangers Suarez-ish hot streak, or is there something going on with Martin Perez here?
I mean, you're talking about the last 4 starts of 4 and runs total for Martin Perez, but it's against the Cardinals, it's against the Rocky Road, it's against the Marlins, and against the Pirates. So,
and the Cardinals are atrocious against lefties. If you're thinking the Cardinals are not that bad, they are terrible against lefties.
Great point. He had 5 walks in that game though too. The thing is though, Martin Perez has been a Vargas role before because his changeups can be really good. Cutters can be really good. He can nibble around the zone well. He has tougher matchups ahead. I think these are the 4 best starts that he has with the Padres right now.
Sad days.
That said, maybe he does continue. It's good enough. And he's a Toby right now.
We're going to move on because there are so many names in tier 11 that I want to at least touch on a little bit. And that starts with number 69, JP Sears. Number 70, Bobby Miller. Number 71, Walker Buehler. Number 72, David Festa. Number 73, Belton Francis. Number 74, Spencer Arrighetti. Number 75, Edward Cabrera. Number 76, Jake Irvin. Number 77, Andrew Abbott. Number 78, Charlie Morton. And number 79, the Boyd Boys. Here for Matthew Boyd. What's the tier called? Why is it called that?
This is the Australian Stadium, because if you watch this game, I don't know if you remember them having, in Australia, reacting to this. Every single foul ball, the crowd went nuts. They were just like, this is unreal. What? The ball's coming here. This is crazy. This is so good. And that's what this is like, because every time something happens, we're like, we're so excited by them. But then you realize it's just like one game and it doesn't happen again.
Were you excited by the Bobby Miller start over the weekend?
I mean, I was excited that he was back.
Sure.
Yeah. Look, I actually originally had him in tier 9 because I'm not going to ignore the fact that Bobby Miller still has amazing stuff.
Yeah, I know.
It's weird. It's so weird. It's got to just come out and work.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but
I don't know. I mean, it hasn't so far. But
I wanted to shake and be like, throw your 4-seamers here and throw your slider more. And you're good, man. Just what are you thinking about on the mound? What is your approach with this? Just go sell out for that. You got nothing to lose, But yeah, I put him here at tier 11. Same with Walker Buehler, who's right after him. It's same thing. At least he threw good cutters, but he still has to figure out the rest of his arsenal.
Yeah. Speaking of the rest of his arsenal, somebody who has figured that out a little bit is Belton Francis.
Who? Have we talked about him at all?
We have. It's been a while. But we're back. He is going to be in my Mixing It Up article coming out on Wednesday over on NBC Sports. He has, since moving back into the rotation after Yusei Kikuchi was traded, he has leaned into the splitter far more aggressively rather than just the heavy curveball usage. He added in a sinker a little bit out of the bullpen, and that's kind of come in as another fastball offering to right-handed hitters. He's not throwing it a lot, but it does give him now a 5-pitch mix that he can mix and match a little bit. And this goes back to what we've talked about with some of the other younger pitchers on here, like the Spencer Schwellenbachs and the Zebby Matthewses, and where if you have more pitches that you can go to, it does raise the floor a little bit as you figure out kind of what's working or not working. He's obviously not the caliber of those guys, but the splitter has been a good pitch for him as well. So you have a deeper arsenal of pitches plus a move to a secondary pitch that is a little bit more intriguing and has added some strikeout upside. Deep league, but I'm intrigued by what he's doing. And he gets the Angels this week, which is nice.
Well, there's the thing. So it's been 3 starts of 7 strikeouts or more for Belton Francis. And the splitter showed up, man. And it was 4-seamers upstairs. The thing is, the 4-seamer shape is worse now. It's nothing is exceptional anymore. But the locations were really nice, and then the splitter was underneath. And like, wait, you're a fastball splitter guy now? I don't know if that's gonna stick around. I like the idea that the sinker comes in and helps too. I feel like he's just kind of hit the reset button and everything. It's a little strange. It is a good matchup to take a chance, right? To roll the dice. That is against the Angels for Bowden and Francis. I'm cool with that. I am more intrigued by JP France though. And that's, oh my gosh, are you aware of JP France, right? I'm sorry, not JP France. Oh my
JP
gosh, JP
Sears.
Sears.
Yeah. I was like,
Sorry,
is
Bowden
JP France
Francis and
coming
JP
back?
Sears equals JP France.
Yeah, I am aware of JP Sears. Yeah, he's on a really hot streak. He's on a real hot streak as well. That has come with a little bit of a attack change. And Spears was somebody you and I talked about in the offseason because he had a surprisingly good four-seam fastball, given the location and the shape and all that kind of stuff. But you know, it was a struggle to start the year, but he is evolving in a way that is super interesting of late.
I mean, he should be in your mixing it up article because the last 4 games for JP Sears, he went from throwing his sweeper, I want to say over 30% of the time per start, to didn't hit 20% in any of them. Really, he's averaging like 10% in those 4 games. The changeup went from like a 15% ish at best to about 25%. And meanwhile, the four seamer has been closer to 50% usage and has exploded at the top of the zone. JP Sears does not have a single game in the stretch underneath a 17% swinging strike rate. He actually had a 28% rate in the last one, 14 whiffs over 50 thrown. What? Like we've talked about this four seamer that should be something much better, but he hasn't been able to consistently locate it upstairs. These games he's done that, and it's a 15% swing strike rate overall for the year, which is 95th percentile. Just want to throw that out there for all four seamers in baseball among all starting pitchers. So, man, that's kind of cool. Mistake rate on that four seamer is just 3%. Oof. So with that changeup, which I think is a really good pairing for that fastball, it's not even like the best location, not down, but it's still arm side and it messes guys up a bit. I don't know. It's pretty cool. And you're wondering why is this such a successful four seamer? Well, it has a lot of horizontal break. It has also a very steep arm angle, and those two things combined with that location make it very tough to hit. He's interesting.
Yeah, Sears has been on the fringe of the mixing it up article. I just sometimes I'm like, it's an Oakland starter, and so like, I'll get Zach Eflin in there or something like that. And it's probably not the best way to go about it. But yeah, Sears was somebody whose four-seam fastball looked pretty good in the, we talked about it in the metrics in the offseason, but he wasn't throwing it as much. Like they dialed back his usage of it in especially in 2-strike counts, and he was throwing these other pitches, but he was still getting hit hard, and it seemed just like the approach was off. So I'm glad. I have been glad to see this change happen for him. And certainly, it's not the best team context, but the ballpark is good and deeper formats. It certainly works. We're going to get into some streamers right now, but before that, we'll take one final little break. So the final 2 tiers, mainly streamer tiers. Tier number 12 starts number 80, Ben Lively. Number 81, Mitch Keller. Number 82, Luis Severino. Number 83, Sean Manaea. Number 84, Marcus Stroman. Number 85, Jose Berrios. Number 86, Michael Wacha. Number 87, Michael Lorenzen. Number 88, Kyle Gibson. What's this tier called? Why is it called that?
These are the Prospect Park fields. They are terrible. They're always there. You always had to play a game. You had it, but my gosh, the infield is the worst. There's no fence. You don't know what you're going to find in the outfield. The mounds, don't get me started about how I couldn't get any footing on these mounds. It would just be a pothole. It was the worst, but it was there. And that's what tier 12 is.
It was the worst, but it was there. I will just give a little nod to somebody who I guess it's unfortunate that he did make the column over the mixing it up column over JP Sears. But I was talking a little bit about Michael Lorenzen and what the changes that the Royals have made, upping the sweeper usage, and the curveball usage. It seems like they're just like, again, shifting the attack plan a little bit, like the Orioles shifted the attack plan a little bit with Zach Eflin, where you're not like in some major arsenal change. But we've talked about Lorenzen as this like super poor man's Seth Lugo, where he's got like 7 or 8 pitches and there's like a slider and a sweeper and a cutter, and they're all like kind of variations of a similar thing. But more of the sweeper and more of the curve and less of the fastballs is not such a bad thing for Lorenzen.
I mean, yeah, he gets the Cardinals this week. It could work. I don't really think his command is that great right now, but it's been fine. So here he is.
We've got to talk about number 89 because everybody's probably going to want to know why we don't believe in him more. So number 13 starts with number 89, Osvaldo Bido. Number 90, Nick Martinez. Number 91, Jameson Taillon. Number 92, Eric Fetty. Number 93, Jordan Montgomery. Number 94, DJ Hers. 95, Kyle Harrison. 96, Hayden Birdsong. 97, Colin Ray. 98, Frankie Montas. 99, Andrew Heaney. And 100, Joey Estes. What's this tier called? Why is it called that?
This is called the New York Street because that's where stickball is played. That's where like you need it for a moment. Just like, you know what? Let's just go play some baseball or whatever. You just go out on the street and you play it there. It's their temp thing. It's not something you always say like, oh, I want to go to that place. It's just for right now. The streamers of the week. It's the New York Street.
Love it. Do love some stickball on the New York City streets, by the way. So why is Osvaldo Bido at 89? I know people are going to look at, his last 30 days or his whatever, and they're going to say, this guy's pitching phenomenally. Why are we not fully buying in on him as a person I need to be adding?
Yeah, I just don't think his fastball's that good. Velocity is there, 95 miles per hour. He locates it decently well. At times he did last week. It was generally in the upper half. I just see a guy, I watched him. He got some good matchups. He did not get crushed by the Dodgers. I just don't really think this is a long-term thing. I think it's kind of nice in the moment, but I still think he's kind of volatile and doesn't really have anything that's that exceptional.
And we have seen A's pitchers do this. Like there was a stretch for Luis Medina. There was a stretch for Mitch Spence. There was a stretch for guys where it's like, okay, the team get a little hot, good pitching park. They put up good numbers, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's, a JP Sears in there. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, there's nothing really that jumps off the page. Like Mitch Spence is all about, hey, look, sliders and cutters. If I could locate those and it's hard to hit. Luis Medina says, hey, look, I throw really hard and I have sometimes a slider and or curve that are filthy, but I have no idea where it's going. And then you have Bido who's just like, I don't know. I just like throw 95 and I have a thing that you would call a slider and it goes over the plate and like, yay, I'm pitching. And it works sometimes and doesn't other times. And I don't really think that the last 3 starts of 18 innings and just 2 runs are really actually anything to write home about.
I love the idea that somebody's internal monologue when they're on the mound is just, yay, I'm pitching. Just like
that was me every single time I pitched. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's great. I'm a big fan. That's going to do it for this top 100. As Nick mentioned, next week we're going to be switching it up. Going more schedule focused. So we will powwow and decide the best way to present that information to you in an audio format. If you keep watching on YouTube, maybe we'll find a way to get some graphics up here for that or some actual schedules so you can take a peek. So if you are listening to this in the good old fashioned audio format, just know that when we record this at 4 p.m. on Mondays, we are going to be going live on YouTube. If you want to see, which random people we resemble. And I'm curious to see who YouTube thinks we resemble this week.
Fantastic. I can't wait for that one. We'll probably go team by team and then just saying great at the end, like who are the general ones who benefit and who do not.
Yes. Super fun ones. Some of those will go long. We'll try to make sure they don't, but it is inevitable. I am Eric Samulski, the Pelican.
I'm Nick Pollack, the Lion.
And I'm going to see if I can round up a little stickball crew.
Bye. I'm hitting the button that says end stream and nothing is happening. I'm gonna reload. You should too.